How do you open personal bank accounts in the UAE? How do you open business bank accounts? How do you qualify even if you're not a resident? How much interest can you earn? How do you qualify for credit cards and mortgages? And most importantly, how do you transfer cost-effectively large amounts of money to the UAE? We will answer all of these questions in this video on banking in the UAE. Let's start with personal bank accounts, non-residents versus residents. Non-residents, according to the Central Bank of the UAE, are only allowed to open savings accounts. Even then, it is tricky to open an account. Usually, you need to have some kind of connection to the country. For example, you have a property in Dubai already. Or alternatively, you're willing to transfer a large amount of money to the UAE. If you're a non-resident, only traditional banks such as Emirates NBD and Rak Bank would even be willing to open an account for you. Online-only banks such as Vio or Mashreq Neo will not be willing to open an account for you. Even then, the bank account opening process can take up to 1 month because of extensive background checks. You'll also need to travel to the UAE to sign any bank account opening documents. Keep in mind, if you're a non-resident, you cannot get a debit card or a credit card or any loan products. You have to get a visa for that. As a resident with a UAE visa and an Emirates ID, it will be much easier to open a bank account. In that case, you have to decide between the online-only banks such as Vio and Mashreq Neo, or traditional banks such as Emirates NBD. Online-only banks also usually offer better terms and conditions. For example, Vio Bank offers significantly higher interest rates than other traditional banks. And if you have a debit card, you can get up to 1% in cashback, and with a credit card from Vio, even 2% in cashback. The account opening process, as long as you have an Emirates ID, is super easy and can be done in just 10 minutes. Usually the account is approved instantly and you can right away use virtual debit cards. However, online-only banks usually have lower transaction limits, so if you're planning to transfer millions of US dollars, it will usually be better to work with a traditional bank. If you're a non-resident, why would you even want to open a bank account in the UAE? Here are 3 reasons. First of all, if you transfer 2 million dirham to a fixed deposit bank account in the UAE, you qualify for an investor golden visa for 10 years. And the best thing is, you can withdraw that money after 2 years and keep the 10-year visa. That's better than a property golden visa, where you have to remain invested for the entire 10-year period. Another reason to have a bank account is if you own real estate in Dubai. It will be much easier to receive any rent payments, pay property management companies, pay for service charges, and pay for utilities. And lastly, having a local bank account will make it much easier to buy real estate on the secondary market. When you buy real estate, usually you buy straight from a developer, which is the primary market, or you buy on the secondary market from an existing investor. Buying property on the secondary market as a non-resident is kind of difficult because most sellers demand payment in the form of a local check, which you can only have if you have a local bank account. Are you looking to relocate to Dubai? We specialize in tax-optimized relocation strategies for businesses and individuals alike, allowing you to slash personal income taxes, corporate income taxes, exit taxes in your home country, and all types of investment taxes. We assist clients with their move from start to finish, including handling company setups, visa applications, and even accounting. If you're looking for unbiased real estate analysis, we are Dubai's only non-agency analysis firm. And we also draft international estate planning strategies. Book a free consultation at thedubainavigator.com to learn more on how we can assist you achieve your dreams. What about banking safety? We can assess the safety of banks based on the creditworthiness or credit ratings of banks. This list shows the safest banks based on credit ratings. The safest bank in the UAE is First Abu Dhabi Bank, or FAB. While this bank is safer than any bank in the United States, there are safer banks in Europe and in Asia. The online-only bank Vio is partially owned by FAB as well as the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund. As a result, it should be fairly safe. Is there a risk of your account ever being blocked? Thankfully, in the UAE, if any suspicious payments come in, for example from a crypto exchange, that money is usually sent back. Your account is rarely blocked, except if you're a political dissident or have committed any crime in the UAE. If you're looking to cash out from crypto and transfer that money to a UAE bank account, we recommend the following. First of all, start with relatively small payments. Don't transfer very large amounts, millions of US dollar, from a crypto exchange directly to your UAE bank account. Also ensure that any money coming in comes from a crypto exchange account in your name. It can also help to use a local crypto exchange that is licensed in the region, for example BitOasis. And for larger transactions, it is also generally better to use a business bank account rather than a personal bank account to receive funds. This brings us to business bank accounts. Here, the situation is very similar to personal bank accounts. If you have a business abroad and want to open a business bank account in the UAE, it will be very difficult. Usually, you need to have a local trade license in the UAE. Even then, it can be difficult to open an account with a traditional bank. Traditional banks such as Emirates NBD usually require you to show that you have a large amount of paid-in capital, some kind of business experience, business plan, or have an existing business in the UAE with lots of revenues. So if you're just starting out, I highly recommend you to open an account with an online-only bank, for example again VIO or Mashreq Neo. Both of these have business accounts. At this point, we should mention that some banks, online banks, but also regular traditional banks, are not very responsive to customer inquiries. How to contact a bank if you have any questions usually depends on the bank. For example, many traditional banks are best reached by phone. Online banks such as VIO are usually most responsive by WhatsApp. Another important point is that most banks require you to show proof of residency. So that doesn't just mean a visa and an Emirates ID, it also means to have an annual tenancy contract. At the time this video was made, VIO Bank is the only major bank that does not actively ask for a tenancy contract for proof of residency. Instead, when you download their app and fill out the bank account opening application, they usually check your GPS location. So if you're not in the UAE and want to apply for the bank account, this won't be possible. Also, account fees for personal bank accounts are usually very low, around 20 or 25 dirham. And if you keep a minimum balance starting at just 3,000 dirham in your personal bank account, usually there are no fees at all. For business bank accounts, fees are around 50, 60 US dollar or 200 dirham per month. Investing in stocks. If you're looking to invest in international stock markets from the UAE, there are two options. Either you do so via your regular bank account in the UAE. However, a warning here, most banks such as Mashreq Neo are not very sophisticated when it comes to investing in international stock markets. VIO Bank is the most advanced here. You can invest in most major stocks and ETFs in the United States, for example, via your personal bank account. However, there's some limitations if you want to invest in more obscure stocks, in options, or in some other countries. If you want to have a larger choice of investment options, it is better to open a brokerage account, for example at Interactive Brokers in the United States. They allow UAE residents to have an account with them. However, if you invest directly in the United States, for example with Interactive Brokers, US inheritance taxes may apply. Any assets located in the United States above a value of 60,000 US dollar are subject to up to 40% in inheritance taxes if you are not a resident in the United States. If you want to avoid those inheritance taxes and still invest in the United States, there are two options. Either you invest in the US through your UAE bank account, or alternatively, you set up a company in the UAE which then owns an Interactive Brokers brokerage account in the US. In that case, should you pass away, your relatives will inherit the UAE company, including any US assets that the company owns. They won't inherit the US assets directly and thus avoiding the US inheritance tax. Also keep in mind, if you want to invest in international markets, such as the United States, you have to convert money to US dollar first. You cannot buy US stocks in another currency, such as dirham. That brings us to the next point. What is the most cost-effective solution to convert currencies? The absolute cheapest option is to use a brokerage account, such as interactive brokers. You can fund this account with any currency, for example with dirham. And then on the open forex market, you can just buy any other currency. This is virtually free, except maybe for a 1 to 2 US dollar flat transaction fee. So you're not paying 1 to 2% in exchange fees anymore. Alternatively, some banks in the UAE, such as VIO, offer very attractive exchange rates for US dollar dirham exchanges. For example, at VIO, if you pay for their premium plan, you can exchange dirham to US dollar and vice versa at just 0.5% fees. That's very, very low, much lower than other companies such as Wise or even XE. If you want to exchange any other currencies, such as euro or British pound to dirham, it will get more complex. You can of course use an exchange house such as XE or Wise, however, those only work one way. So for example, from the United Kingdom or from Germany to the United Arab Emirates. It won't work the other way around. And that's because UAE residents are not officially allowed to own a Wise account or even an XE account. So at the time of moving to Dubai, you can just set up a Wise account while you're still a resident in the United Kingdom, for example, and then send all of that money to the UAE at fairly attractive exchange rates. But then later on, it's kind of difficult to transfer the money out. Usually you would need to work with your local bank if you don't have an interactive brokers account. So you would need to go to your local bank in the UAE and then pay 1.5% in exchange fees, unfortunately. And VIO Bank, in our experience, is the most competitive bank in terms of exchange fees in the UAE. How do you get credit cards, mortgages, car loans, personal loans in the UAE? There's several requirements. First of all, you need to have a UAE visa and an Emirates ID. In addition, you need to have some kind of regular income, at least for 3 months and ideally for 6 months. So you would need to receive the same regular payment every month into your UAE bank account. That's crucial. If you receive your income into a foreign bank account, you still won't qualify for any kind of credit in the UAE. In addition, the income that is being paid into your UAE bank account needs to be paid from a business bank account of a UAE company that has a UAE trade license. So for example, if you're living in Dubai for many years and you receive a regular salary into your personal bank account in Dubai, you may still not qualify for any kind of credit products if that income is paid from a foreign company rather than a UAE-based company with a UAE trade license. So if you're self-employed, it is crucial to have a local business with a local trade license and then pay yourself a regular salary into your personal bank account in Dubai, ideally for a minimum of 6 months, and then you can start applying for credit card, for mortgages and so on.